All right, so amid the debate over the federal response, federal aid, you just heard some of it there, Los Angeles is facing its third consecutive day of strong winds, making containment efforts even more challenging. Joining us now is the former director of CAL FIRE, Ken Pimlott. He led the agency for more than 14 years. There's some of the worst fires in the state's history. Ken, thanks for being with us tonight. Help me through this at just a basic level. This is 8 days. I've been watching this fire, as most of the country, or a lot of the country has, for 8 days. And I'm looking at 19% contained and 40-something% contained. How?
You know, again, thank you for having me on. This is well beyond what we would consider just a forest or vegetation fire. This is an urban conflagration. And the containment isn't just literally putting a line around a brush or forest vegetation or around the burn. This is literally mopping up home after home. You've seen the devastation. We have, over 10,000 homes destroyed. Each and every one of those is burning. It's got hazardous material. All of it's presenting challenges to firefighters. So the mop up is much more challenging and difficult. And every one of those homes creates new embers and sparks that with the wind can blow over the containment lines and escape or start new fires. And so containment is very methodical and very tedious on this kind of a fire.
So methodical, tedious, 40,000 combined acres, Ken, and just between the Palisades and the Eaton fire. And as I mentioned, you were in charge of this thing for a decade and a half. What's your best guess is when we can sit there and say, you know what, this is over?
It will be weeks. While
wow.
the main fire movement is died down, we're not seeing the active fire, but the real threat is still there in terms of again, really truly being comfortable that the fire can be contained and not escape that. And we've seen in the forecast, there is even now the potential for Santa Ana winds to return next week. And even without the winds, Southern California is in critically dry conditions. It's had less than 1/10 of an inch of rain this rainfall season. It is fire season for the foreseeable future.
Ken, you probably heard a little bit of that interview before you with the congressman. There's this debate that's starting to take place in Washington right now with most likely a massive federal aid package at some point coming to California. And there's talks on one side of the aisle about we need to attach conditions because of the way things have been handled. There's talks on the other side of the aisle. How could you do this? We've never stipulated conditions for stuff like this. As those debates happen, whatever side of the thinking you're on, that it's a good idea or not, what do you think Washington needs to know about preventing and taking on wildfires in your state going forward?
Absolutely. And California is no different than many of the other states in the Western United States. We're all facing the same challenging, changing weather conditions that are absolutely driving fires to be much more extreme. Right now, we all, regardless of the level of government or organization, our focus really needs to continue to be taking care of the people in these communities. Now is the most challenging time. The residents, the adrenaline's wearing off. These residents have been out of their homes for over a week, and they're starting to really feel the grief and the anxiety to get back in or to see what they've lost, and then what's next. And so it's really now the most critical point in these fires is how we transition from the firefight to taking care of the community and the recovery. And that's a long process over the next several years to truly have these communities recover and take care of those people. And that needs to continue to be our focus for the long haul.
Ken Pimlott, you might have seen him on Netflix. He's a pro and an expert on this topic, joining us live here on The Hill. Thank you for your perspective, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.